going on, guys? Getting kind of late Monday night after work. I did some water changes on Friday on my 55-gallon tanks, but all my 20s on the custom rack stand need water changes. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys how I'm doing water changes. I really don't want to do them, but you know, it's that time of the week. Tanks are getting dirty. My Rams behind me definitely need a big water change. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys what I'm doing. I got, basically, just to tell you real quick, I have a mag drive pump pumping through a 1.25 inch and a half hose, about 50 foot long, to my floor drain. Then I have a Python hose with a custom PVC, kind of like a J hose that hangs on the tank, and I'll fill that up. I'll dechlorinate with some Seachem Safe that I buy in bulk, and then I pre-mix that. So let me get all my stuff situated. Let me kind of show you the first tank or two how I'm doing the water changes. I'll do them all. I'll show you some dirty tanks right now, and I'll show you what they look like when I'm all done. Just to kind of show you the room, if you're not familiar with my channel, I have a bunch of 20 longs here. There's 16 20 longs on my just 2x4 stand. I got some 10 gallons over there in 40s. Those will all be getting changed tonight. It's a little messy in the fish room, but I got my 29s, 55s, and some 10s. They've all been cleaned. I gotta do those 10s in the corner, but everything else over here that you see all needs water changes tonight. So I mean, it usually takes me about 3 hours to do all the tanks. Got some clutter over here, but here's my 20-gallon shrimp tank with some guppies breeding in there. The lights are off. Let me see if I can toss a flashlight on here. Use my little flashlight in the fish room, a little Max 800. Can see a little bit better, it's still glare, but I got a nice male germ blue ram in here. Waiting to get some females ready for him to breed. I got a pair of fancy guppies in here somewhere. They're breeding, dropping some fry. It's not focusing much for us. And I got a bunch of orange shrimp in here. So they have recently started breeding more for me. And let me see if I can get the focus more. I'll tap the screen. But some up front. Let's see if we can see them. Sorry about that. But basically that's not the point. So I got my 20 gallon, I got my wall 55-gallon tank. But all these tanks need water changes. The 20 long here especially definitely caught my eye. It's time of the week they need change anyways. I got one random guppy. But I got some germ blue rams in here. They'll move in out to the 55 here shortly. Next week I'm going to sell all my adult rams. I have like 20 left. And all these sub-adults will move in there. They'll continue to color up. And I'll sell these wholesale to some stores. Ship some online. I got some just some local like Craigslist ads going out that I got some people waiting for rams. So I'll sell those. But basically, guys, it's water change day. I want to show you how I do it. I'm going to pull all my hoses out. I have that one drain pipe, like I said, pump that goes to the drain. And then I have my Python hose that hooks onto the tanks. So eventually, what I'd like to do is I have all my tanks drilled. So if I could have it drilled maybe 75% down in the tank, right here, do a PVC up with the little hose, I can turn that sideways inside the tank. The tank will lower all the way down. I can lower all of them, walk away for a half hour, an hour. They'll drain into the floor drain without using a pump. And then I can turn them up straight, and I can go and do the same thing I'm doing. I can use my dechlorinator. I'm using this Seachem Safe right now. Something like this I just bought. It was like 40 bucks, I think, maybe a little bit less. And here's my old one. I still have about this much left. And I've been using, anything I buy in bulk, I always date it so I can find out how much it costs me per month. Say I use it over 6 months, like my brine shrimp, I go through almost every 9 months. That's like $60, so it's less than $10 a month to feed that live food. Obviously the cost of salt too, but it's very cheap to do. It's not like I'm spending $60 a month on brine shrimp, eggs, or anything like that. And I have a great daily live food for any of my fry and my baby germ blue rams. But I bought this on 12/7/16, so almost going on 2 years, I guess a full 2 years or so of using this on all my aquariums. I don't know the total amount of water. I know it, but I don't have it off the top of my head. I'll rate that right there. So that exact amount of water divided by half, I'm using every single week on water changes. It's probably around, it's under $1,000 a year on the water change bill, but I mean, it's definitely a big cost where you gotta say, can I justify everything it takes to run the fish and still make money? So whenever you go and sell that $100 of fish, make that $100 sale, $50 sale, $200 sale, whatever it may be, that's not money in your pocket, that's money to the expenses till you hit that overhead, and then you can kind of save that up and start making money in the fish room. But basically, I don't want to get too off topic. Let's go ahead, let's get our supplies out. Let's do a couple water changes. I'm not going to show you every single water change, but I'll show you. I showed you what the tanks look like now. I'm going to do a water change, show what they look like after. Obviously, if I test the water before and after, I'll get a nice drop in the nitrates, so the fish are doing well. It's also going to produce a lot of growth because you're diluting any hormones in the water. Whenever you're growing fish out in a tank, the more fish you have, they give off a hormone, and that's going to stunt their growth. So say you have a pond and there's 100 fish in there, the more they grow, the more they give off a hormone that's going to stunt their growth. Say you put that same 100 fish into a 1,000 gallon or 10,000 gallon pond, something much larger, same number of fish, they're going to grow much faster. Not because there's more water, yes there is, and that's part of it, but the hormone is more diluted, so they can grow more, they can reproduce, they can grow faster to hit that adulthood to reproduce. It's kind of nature's way of keeping things in control. So when you put them in a tank, it's isolated. If you do enough water changes, you're bringing down your nitrates, you're keeping the water clean, you're also diluting that hormone, which is going to promote a lot of growth. So little information for you guys. That's always nice to know when you're breeding fish and kind of why you're doing things. If I tested some of these tanks, I'm sure the nitrates aren't very low, but doing that water change will, encourage more breeding and faster growth in the fry. So I know I'm kind of getting off topic. Let's do this first water change. Usually I'll go from left to right all the way through, so I'm probably gonna do that, but I'm gonna go ahead and show you a few of these tanks actually draining it and filling it so you can see how it process. And any of the products I'm using, I always put them in the description below. Help you guys out if you're looking for something, find somewhere to find it, and also it helps me out if you guys click on the links and things like that. But let's do some water changes. All right, so behind me, I already started doing a few of the smaller tanks, but they go really fast, so I didn't want to spend too much time on just shuffling around. This 40-gallon tank behind me here has got my mag drive pump in here. It's already drained water out, and I have my little sponge over the intake, and then I have my just run to extension cord for the pump so I can move it around. So right now you can watch it kind of live action how fast I can drain that tank. I like to get ahead of myself on the water going out before I start filling. Sometimes you can drain all the tanks first, turn that pump off, and then only focus on filling. The larger tanks you can kind of do them at the same time because it's not going to fill up as fast. You have a little bit of sitting around time. So if I was doing all 40s, I could do like 5 or 6 of those tanks, maybe like 3 of them, and then see it's already down here, I can move it to the next tank. Now I can start my water on another tank and I can start filling, because it will fill slower than it drains with a pump this size. So you want to get that water going out before. If you want to do all the draining first, depending on how many tanks you have, and then start the filling later on after you're done. Me, I like to get like maybe like 10 tanks ahead, and then I'll start filling by the time I'm not finished filling. Hopefully this makes sense. So basically I'm draining the tanks and then filling the tanks. Obviously it's a water change, but if you want to, you can start filling before you're done draining, because you're going tank by tank, especially in a fish room. So this tank's almost done. I'm doing a little bit over 50%, not quite like a 90%, so somewhere in the middle. I'm going to show you exactly what I do. So I'm just going to move it to the next tank. The pump can run for a few seconds out of water. So let me move it up to my top 40. Real simple, but I'll show you anyways. So I'll pick it up, let the water drain, move it up there, lower it to the bottom of the tank, make sure I'm not falling on anything or dropping the pump. But it's simple as that. You don't have to waste time on unplugging the pump, running over, putting the pump back in, plug in. It can run a few seconds out in the air. I've been doing this for about 2 years. The pump hasn't died on me. I had one pump. Every once in a while you have to kind of shake it around in there just because the magnet may get dislodged because it's a mag drive. The impeller sticks in there by a magnet. But as you can see, this tank's already running. I've already a few inches down. I need to get a little more slack on my hose so it's not pinching up top. But besides that, that's pretty basic. I mean, you're just gonna drain the water out of the tanks using that pump. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep doing this for a while. I'll show you when I start my hose in, how I dechlorinate it on the water coming in, and kind of just how I check the temperature, things like that. As I'm doing my water changes, a good question some people may ask me is, what about gravel vacs? You want to clean the gravel of your aquarium? All my tanks in here are bare bottom, so all I'm going to use is a very fine mesh net. And any tanks where there is a lot of buildup of fish waste, simply just drag this along the bottom, try not to stir it up as much as you can, and you're just going to scrape that along, and you can get maybe 90% of the fish waste onto a net, as long as it's fine enough. Now I have a whole bunch of fish waste in this net, and I can just simply take that, let all the water drain out, and I can disregard that into a dirty bucket of water. I can rinse it out in the sink, anything like that. But there you have right there. I mean, there's still a lot of waste there, but I got about 90% of the waste with that one net full, and that's kind of what I do. Instead of going through and siphoning out using a turkey baster, taking a lot of extra time, which I will do occasionally, but if you need to go through and just get a net full, scoop all that waste out. It's not harmful. The filter is breaking down all that extra waste chemically with the bacteria, so it's beneficial bacteria in the filter. It's going to process ammonia and break it down to nitrate, and then by diluting the water with water changes, you're removing a lot of those nitrates. So that's kind of what I do for my bare bottom tanks. I'll go through and do that once or twice more, but you guys can get a good idea how much waste I just got out of that tank with a simple 10 seconds of taking a very fine mesh net through and just scooping off the bottom. So I'll do that in a lot of my bare bottom tanks that I'm doing just a pump out, and I'm not actually using a gravel vac to go through the bottom, which you still can do. The Python hose that we're going to fill with, you could take off the PVC, put a hose on that, and you can siphon the bottoms. That may only be 5 or 10% of your water change, getting all that waste off. Then you can do a large water change with the pump to really dilute the water and give that big water change feel. Decided to just drain them all because I do want to shoot a little bit of footage during this water change. So all these tanks over here are 50% or more water change on the 40s, 10s, 20s. I did 20 planted tank, and right now I'm currently draining the 55. What I did, the 55 takes longer, so I know I have time to shoot some footage and get the water started. But I actually unplugged that pump right there, so it's still going to do a gravity siphon. So right now the tank is draining. It'll be at a much slower rate. But let's go ahead, let's get our Python hose started. I'll show you how I dial in that temperature and how I treat the water as they fill. Alright guys, we're about to fill our tanks, but I actually am running out of dechlorinator, so I need to remake it. The way I do that, using my safe, I've already purchased an initial bottle of Prime. This does 4,800 gallons of water, so almost 5,000. So I've calculated this before I wrote on my bottle. 4 teaspoons equals that 4,800, sorry it's a little bright. But basically, I will fill this up with water and I will add it to my safe. So I know 4 teaspoons, sorry, do a little bit of math up for you guys. 4 teaspoons, I'm gonna use my tablespoon. 3 teaspoons equals 1 tablespoon. Sorry, I'm doing a little bit of math, just to make sure I'm doing this right. So if I do 1 scoop of this, tablespoon, and I'll dump it in my container, that's 3 teaspoons. Just to make sure I'm doing that right, I was thinking I just added 3 total. This will be my 4th tablespoon. So that's going to equal 4 bottles of this. So if I'm thinking 3 is 1 scoop, I did 3. So I have 3 full bottles, and I have an extra teaspoon per scoop, and that's going to equal my 4th scoop. So now I have 4 bottles of this I need to add to my mix, and that's going to give me exactly the same ingredients or the same quantity of Safe for my prime. So now I know if I'm going to read this and do 1 capful, 5 milliliters for every 50 gallons, it's the same measurements for my mix. This cost me dollars, this cost me $20. So I'm saving tons of money in the fish room with my water changes doing this. So I'm gonna go ahead, fill this up 4 times, add it to the mix. I'm gonna thoroughly shake that in so all of that gets dissolved. If you guys can see here, it's too bright, but basically I'm gonna do that, and we're gonna have our dechlorinator mix or our water conditioner now that we can start filling our tanks, and this is what we're gonna be adding. All right guys, so just to clarify, I feel like I kind of had to do too much math in my head while I was on video at the same time. So basically, I added 3 bottles of the prime, just water, and I added 4 tablespoons of the concentrated Seachem Safe. So now I have 4 tablespoons, 3 bottles of the prime, and that's going to give me 15,000 gallons of dechlorinator here. This cost me a few dollars. So I mean, that's huge. So I just want to make sure I clarified and said that the right way. So I went and actually thought it through. I almost went through the video, rewound, make sure I did 4 scoops. So I did 4 scoops of that. I only needed 3 bottles of this, not 4. So basically it's a little bit more than a scoop per bottle, and a scoop being a tablespoon. So now I have my dechlorinator. I mix it with warm water, and I know this, whenever I'm dosing it with my dropper, 1 squirt for me, which I'll look at, I think it's like a milliliter, is 10 gallons of water, which I did all the math and I kind of forget it later on. I just know that much of that squirt to that line does this much water, blah, blah, blah. But let's go ahead, let's get our water ready to fill the tanks. So right now I have it dripping warm water. It takes a minute for the water to go in. So when I'm close to turning this on, I'll start the hot water and just kind of drip it so I know I have it set. I'm gonna go ahead and turn a little bit of hot water, a lot of cold. Then we're gonna use our heat gun. I want it coming out around 78 to 80 degrees. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that right now. Just kind of feel the water as it slowly gets warmer so it doesn't get too hot, and just make sure it's consistent, and then I'll go ahead and check the temperature. Now we can reverse it, and I'm gonna go start adding the chlorinator. So here we have the tank filling right now. As you're going, just be smart. I mean, feel the water coming out, feel the tank, make sure it's close. Obviously double check the actual tank's temperature, and then check the water coming in. You can even sometimes hold it right on the hose. You get a pretty accurate reading. So my tanks on the bottom are a little bit cooler, my tanks on the top are warmer, and obviously focus on the species of fish. When I'm doing my discus tank, I always make sure it's a little bit warmer over there, whether I do that first or if I do it last. I'll slightly bump that temperature up just a tiny bit, and then I'll kind of dilute it. Or if I know it's winter time, I know I'm going to run out of warm water faster. It's going to slowly get cooler, more so than the summer months. I'll do that tank first. But whenever you're doing this, you want to dose the entire aquarium first. So I use my dropper here. Right here, 2 milliliters is right there, and I get a full scoop, like a full siphon of water. It goes right around 2 millimeters. I don't know if you can tell that right there, probably not. But I already did it. As soon as I came around the corner, I said I was going to do that, the chlorinator. I added 4 immediately. So basically 2 milliliters of that dose of prime or Seachem Safe mix. 2 milliliters equals 10 gallons of water. So 40-gallon aquarium, turn the water on. 4 of these, when I take a big siphon like that, is going to be 10 gallons each. That's going to be 40 gallons. So I'm going to dose the entire tank first when I'm filling from the tap. So I've already done 40 gallons. Before I started talking, I did another one. So now I have 50 gallons. There goes 60. So you want to dose the entire tank, then you want to dose at least the amount of water you're adding. So for this, I'm adding about 20, almost 30 gallons of water, and the tank is 40. So I want at minimal 7 of these, so 70 gallons of water water conditioner. So it took me a while to figure that out. I used to do, I'd go kind of cheap on it, and I'd be like, I'm gonna add in 20 gallons of water, I'm only gonna do 2 of these. And that worked fine for about 6 months to 8 months. And then our city water was getting treated more so, and they were adding different chemicals. And I lost an entire tank of guppies. I had maybe, all my tanks did fine, a couple of my fish kind of looked funny, but I had one tank, it was actually this tank, I had maybe 300 guppies in there, just assorted mix, and I lost about 90% of them. So there must have been more chloramines in the water, they were doing more chemicals to make the water safe for us. But whatever they were doing, it definitely hurt the fish. So now I do the recommended dose where you're going to dose the entire volume of the tank and then dose the initial water being added. So just to clarify that, because I know whenever you're filling the tank, some people don't really talk about that. They say, oh, I just treat the water. So I want to tell you how much I'm treating. And this tank's almost full. I always do a little bit more. So right here is going to be my third additional. So there's going to be almost 80 gallons, that's 70 gallons of dechlorinator for my 40-gallon aquarium, doing a large, about 50% water change. So 60 is like the bare minimum, but I mean, just a little bit more. And I'm doing as I fill. So I don't want to do 70 gallons here. I want to do 40, 50, 60, 70, like so. And I'm going to show you how to move the hose. I used to have a little bit locking mechanism, but it broke every 4 or 5 months. And then I have water spilling everywhere for a minute. So now all I'm going to do, maybe you can see, I'm just going to pinch the hose, lift it up until the water slows down, put it upside down, take it to the next tank, slowly release that pressure so the fish get spooked, and then I'll kind of let it blast. And then I'll show you the whole process here. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 right away, so that's going to mix in the water. And then maybe every few inches or so, I'm going to add another dose. So I'm going to do another 3 of those as the tank's filling. So in the next minute or so, I'll add some when it gets about here. And then right here, I'll do another dose. And then when it's almost finished, I'll do a last one. Sometimes when I pinch it, I'll kind of shake that around, kind of break up the surface agitation and mix any leftover dechlorinator. That's just me personally. I like to think a little bit of common sense. I want that to stir in the water. I don't want a film building on top of the tank, so if I let that water sprinkle there, it's going to bring up more surface agitation, let the filter kick in, keep doing its stuff. But basically that's what I'm going to do for every single tank, depending on the gallon. So I've had this running for a minute or so while we're talking. It's not quite to the level that I pointed at, but there's going to be my 5th, and I'm going to do 2 more before it's done. Pinch that hose off, and I'm also going to periodically feel that water. Make sure it's not too cold or too hot. And then I can even take my heat gun here, make sure, okay, it's coming around 77 degrees. For the guppies, that's fine. It's winter time here in Pennsylvania. So the fish room just a little bit colder. I mean, it's like your house. I mean, these walls beside me are outside walls. The windows get very cold. I mean, it's winter time. So if the tanks drop a little bit in the winter, go up a little bit in the summer, that's very normal, and that's kind of how they would experience it in the wild as well. Not that these are any means wild fish, they're very domesticated, but that's kind of how I'm filling the tanks. I'm going to go ahead, do a lot of these. I might check in and show you a couple things along the way if I think of anything to tell you guys. But I'm going to keep dechlorinating at that same rate, filling all my tanks, monitoring the temperature as I go. And then I'm going to go through and show you some cool stuff in the fish room, because I know I have some super red bristlenose plecos. They have babies just coming out of the cave as of today. It's the first day I spotted them. So I'll show you those. I'll show you how much the fish perk up after their water change. See how much cleaner the tanks look. If I had some test kits on me, I need to buy some. I could test the water, show you kind of how much that changed, but who needs that? I mean, who really tests the water every week when you're keeping the same stuff and there's no problems going on? Not to say you shouldn't have them, but I'm going to be honest with you, I really never test my water. I know where it is, and if there's a problem, I'll figure it out by using so. But whenever you're in the hobby for an extended period of time, you kind of get a feel for where you live, your water, and your fish. So visual learning is the best for me. I like watching videos. I like looking at my fish and seeing how they react. But let's go ahead, fill these tanks up. I'm not going to make you sit through it all. and I'm gonna show you some cool fish after this. Alright guys, so all the tanks are full. I sped that up a little bit, threw some headphones in, listened to some music, got all the water changes done. So let's go ahead, let's look at some fish. I'm gonna wrap this up real quick because I'm done shooting videos for today. It's getting late. It's 2:35. I don't know if I'm gonna say that. That's AM. Long story short, having a fish room is no easy work. I work full time. This is a slow growing side business, so you got to make time for things. You got to kind of grind it out. I love doing this stuff. I'd rather be doing this than playing video games or watching TV. So this is my hobby and my business that I'm slowly growing. But let's go ahead. Let's look at a few tanks. It's going to be super quick. I want to show you the rams. Some of them are showing some breeding behaviors. And I want to show you those newborn bristlenose super red plecos that I talked about earlier, because I spotted one that's super small out of the cave. Hopefully I can find them again, but let's look at those real quick. I'll wrap this up. That's kind of how I do my water changes. I pump the water out, I fill it up with my Python hose. I dechlorinated it with my Seachem Safe that I pre-mixed to save some money, and obviously it's checking the temperature, doing things like that. It's all the basics, but there's a couple steps in between when you're doing it a different way. You gotta know just some steps. I figured I always like watching this stuff and people show things and don't really explain it. So I want to explain what I'm doing, show you the process, show you the fish room. But let's look at some fish and I'll wrap this up. The 20-gallon ram grow out tank's doing well. A few of them are, a lot of them are kind of washed out. A few of them are really colored up, especially like your dominant males. This guy was really fluttering above the sponge filter a couple minutes ago. He's showing a little bit of color. He's almost still washed out because it's a big water change. There's a lot going on, so they kind of get washed out just like you're moving fish almost. You're not really moving them, but he's definitely kind of firing up, showing a little bit of color, and he's still young. These guys got probably 2 more weeks of growth till they really start showing their true color. And maybe about, I could sell them now, but a month from now they'll be really full grown. They'll look a lot better. So he's doing good. That one male swimming around, showing off. The rest of them are still doing good. There's no stressed out fish. They're a little washed out. They almost look better, but you can tell how much clearer the water looks. I netted out some debris from the bottom. They got an 80% water change. And let's wrap it up. I know it's getting late. Here's the fish room. It took me about an hour and a half from where you guys left off to drain and fill the rest of these tanks. Filling takes a long time, so part of me wishes I had a faster water change system, but I'm very happy with my results the way I do it. So I like to split it up some days where these tanks over here I didn't show, but I did a water change of them Friday. Today's Monday night, so those 55s got water changes. These 10 gallons I did tonight. So these small rams and plecos all got a water change, and they're kind of swimming around. I'll add some pleco wafers before I go to bed, right after the video. Guppies are doing well. They got a whole bunch of new fry in the last week or two, so they were swimming around. Group of yellow half blacks I'm breeding. Some grow out super reds. Angels are looking really good right now. These are some of my adults, and some sub-adults I'm growing out and selling. I have the rams still developing. The plecos are doing well. Those guys will get their own video. But basically all the stuff I did over here, you can see I got tons of plecos in this tank, and they really needed that water change because there's so many fish in there, you can't forget about them. There's a real big pleco that came out over here. I never really see her, they're always at the bottom of the tank. cool female bristlenose with the red delta, guppies, a lot of other stuff in here, mainly guppies. These rams I showed in kind of the sped up water change, they're doing well. But let's wrap this up with the fish room, showing if we can find them, the baby super reds that have been born. So you can see this one in front of the tank is about a month old, maybe 2 months old. And then I have some younger ones on the cave. And then let's go ahead and find some newborn babies. Like right here, right there is a brand new baby. I mean, that guy's super tiny. Like from back here, it looks like a speck. But if you look close, that is a bristlenose pleco. One of the babies that left the cave as of today. So he's really small. I mean, you can see over here in comparison, that guy is tiny right there, but they are so much smaller. So he's a generation, the one above him's a generation before him. So there's 1, 2, back there, 3 generations of plecos in here in the last maybe about 3 months. So about every month they're breeding and having babies for me. You can see another small guy right there next to the algae wafer on the seam of the tank. So they're super tiny. And honestly, if I wasn't doing these water changes tonight, I would not have even found those guys. So nothing would have really happened. I would have fed this tank tonight anyways, and they would have got their food. But there's more fish breeding and growing and just being born that these water changes are so important. You have to do them on a routine and not just watch your tanks and do them as needed, because then you kind of forget about stuff and they don't get everything that they need. But as for today, as for the water changes, I hope I didn't really skip stuff. I had to do it and I'm kind of in a rush. Doing the video made it more enjoyable for me, and it kind of made it, oh, I gotta do a video tonight, I want to do the water, I have to do the water changes. It made it more enjoyable. So I'm gonna wrap this up. Here's my breeding tank of rams. I'll show them real quick. Some females up front, my big male right there. And he was guarding his cave the whole time the water was low. So I'm sure he's gonna find a female and try to breed here in the next day or two. But thank you all for watching. I hope you appreciate the little fish room update with the water changes. I'll be posting more videos this week. During the week, I post a lot more videos during the weekend because I have a busy schedule. But during the week, I can grind out some videos late at night. But thanks for watching, guys. Please like, subscribe, share this video, hit the notification bell. Check out my website at biancosfish.com. I really appreciate all the support. I'm trying to hit 2,000 subscribers before the end of the year, 2019. So that would be awesome. Check out my old videos. Look for new ones. Have a good one, guys. Take care of your fish and watch the next video. I appreciate it, and have a good night.